to what you're trying to accomplish, especially with him, being kind of a possession underneath guy.
Yeah, he's very important to what we do. Again, he probably should have some more catches in the time that I've been here. Whether it was we didn't read it right, or maybe his route could have been better. But he's very important to what we do. He's one of those unsung guys. He practices every day. He's a very smart guy. He's a really good route runner, very smooth route runner. Really enjoy coaching him, and he's very important to what we do.
And he didn't get a lot of playing time early last year. When did you kind of start to see that he could develop into that role for you?
Corey, I don't really remember. I'd have to go back and look at that. I just remember in practice, just watching him improve in practice, early on last year, and just saying, this guy's getting better and better. We got to get him on the field. So I'm not sure when that really happened, but I saw the improvement in practice, and told Stan we got to get this guy on the field.
Coach, with Mike Hull expected over here to your line. With Mike Hull expected to return to the field this week, how do you see the reps at linebacker playing out, and do you see Obeng's role affected at all by that?
No, I don't think so. I think that if Hull can go, it would be Hull, Carson, and Wortman more than likely. If Hull, has some issues here throughout the week, then we'll go with whoever we have there, whether it's Obeng or somebody else. But Obeng will play, and he'll have a role in the game, just like he's had the past 2 weeks.
Bill, you've been the university's been on a pretty good run with defensive linemen. What is it about LJ and his coaching style that's, help create this?
Yeah, well, he's, first of all, he's a great person, so they're around him a lot. They like to be around him. His office door is always open. Defensive line coaches and offensive line coaches, they kind of have their own world. Those are very, very tough positions in football to play. Those are, like I always say, those are about 100 car crashes a game. So it's a little bit different than playing corner and wide receiver. Just a little bit. So there's a very deep bond with your coach at those positions, wherever I've been. And Larry is no exception to that because of the type of person he is. Then when he coaches, he's very, very technical in how he coaches these guys. He understands pad level. He understands hand placement. He understands the work ethic that it needs, that position requires. So when you watch him at practice, those guys really don't take a drill off. I mean, they are going, and if they're not going the way he wants them to go, they're going to do up downs. So he demands a lot of his position. Great family guy, has him over the house, things like that. Whatever's allowed by the NCAA. They're very, very close to their coach, and I'd say the same thing about Mac McGregor.
Guy in the back here, Christian's play action fake is something I've noticed over the first few games here, how effective it's been.
Yep.
Is that something he had coming in? Is that something you had to work with? And how valuable is that for a young quarterback and as a play caller?
Yeah, that's really good that you noticed that. I mean, it is, it's something that he had. I think we've worked on him a lot just based on how we fake the ball, the different play fakes that we have. But right from day one, he came in, it's not easy to understand how to fake the football. And great quarterbacks, whether it's Brady, Manning, Rodgers, even these young guys, Kaepernick, and last night Vic. I mean, these guys are great fakers of the football. And it looks like Christian. He's not there yet. That's not what I'm saying. But I think he's got a good start in that department. And we just need to keep working with him and reminding him how important it is.
Bill, Donovan Smith played a lot for you guys last year as a younger guy. I guess what did he do last season specifically to kind of show you guys that he was ready for that responsibility, protecting quarterbacks' blind side as a younger guy?
Well, it started in practice. He practiced very well. He was a little inconsistent last year. I think he's a lot more consistent this year. He's a big guy, 315-pound guy who's very nimble, very athletic, smart guy, instinctive player. And so, he's a guy that's done a nice job for us. And come into this year, another guy I think has taken his game to the next level. He's improved. I think he gave up a couple of pressures last week, but overall, he was Matt calls it the boss hog. He was the boss hog of the Syracuse game up front, and he deserved it. And so he's an improved player. Fun guy to be around too. Great guy.
Bill, you always say you're constantly evaluating how you do things within the program, and with some of the scrutiny that a lot of the stars in college football have come under for things they put on the internet. Have you evaluated like training programs or
Yeah.
things you can say to your guys to avoid those same kind of mistakes?
Sure, yeah, we've brought in different people. We have people here in the athletic department, Jeff Nelson's crew here, that come over early in the season and talk to us about tweeting and Facebook and all that stuff, you know. And then, and then, you know, obviously, I think it's just about daily that I'll stand up in front of the team and just talk to them about, maybe it's some story that's out there, or maybe it's something that one of our guys put out there, but just to constantly remind them that you're a representative, of Penn State and the Penn State football program, and you're a high-profile person, you know, I mean, that's just the way it is. That's what we all signed up for. So it's important that you understand whatever you Twitter out there is out there for everybody, you know what I mean, to see, and the same thing with the you know, Facebook. And so, you know, so we try to educate our guys all the time on those things as best we can.
Bill, you've had some guys that cut a lot of weight this year, DeQuan Jones being one of them. How hard is it to convince those guys to buy into a dietary program like that, you know, getting the right sleep, getting the right nutrition?
That's an interesting question. I think when you're young, when you're talking to a young guy, a young big guy about losing weight, it's not always the easiest thing, especially when you know, these college guys who are rushing from class to come over here to the team meeting, to the position meetings, you know, and they're just grabbing a Big Mac or a Snickers bar or whatever they're grabbing at the hub. You know, that's when it's hard. When you're in pro football, those guys they have the meal, you know, 3 meals right there, and they got a nutritionist watching them. We have a nutritionist too, and Chris Clark, and she's done an excellent job with meeting with all these guys one-on-one, especially the guys that we wanted to talk to that about. So, you know, I think that's part of it, having a professional talk to them about it, and then spelling it out for them. This is what you should have for breakfast. This is what you should have for lunch. This is what you should have for dinner. This is what you should have for snacks. I think that's a big part of it too. And you know, DeQuan's a guy that's taking that to heart.
Bill, on your left, can you just evaluate UCF as an opponent and what challenges you guys are going to face this Saturday?
Yeah, we face a big challenge. They're an excellent football team. They're very well coached. They're sound. They're physical. They're physical at all positions. It's not like they're just physical on the offensive and defensive line. To me, they're a physical team at every position. Our players better be ready to come and show up for a physical football game, because this isn't a game. This won't be a game for the faint of heart, you know. And that's a Coach O'Leary trademark. And so, you know, one of the things that you have to understand with their offense is they've got a really good quarterback. So, you know, again, it's hard to totally stop a guy like that, but you've got to try to contain him. He's very, very good. He's a pro prospect, Bortles. Defensively, they're tough. They're physical. They do some different things that are not easy to go up against. And we're going to have a great practice week. And like I said, we have to limit our mistakes on Saturday. Right now, going in, Central Florida, I don't believe has turned the ball over. We've turned it over way too much. So again, if we go in there and we turn the ball over, we're going to have a long night. So and commit line of scrimmage penalties and things like that, we're going to have a long night. So we've got to understand that and have a great week of practice and be focused and ready to go on Saturday.
Bill, being an 18-year-old college student and starting quarterback at a school at Penn State can be extremely overwhelming. What have you, as coaches, done to kind of simplify things?
Try being a head coach.
What have you coaches done to simplify things for Christian on the field and off the field?
You know, it's interesting. That's something I think about a lot. Obviously, you know, 18 years old, like you said, being the starting quarterback at Penn State is you know, that's a big deal. Everybody understands that. But you know, he's a guy that is very calm. He's got a good demeanor. School's important to him, so he can't miss a class with us. But I mean, he won't miss a class. He'll be in every class. He'll sit in the front row. He'll work hard at it, and when it's time to do football, he'll do football. I don't think he's like this guy that's kind of all over the place. He's a very focused guy. He works at whatever the task is that he needs to accomplish. He's shown me to date that he's been able to get it done. So I don't think he allows all that stuff to really enter in, and you know, he's very, very focused, and it's been fun to watch, and hopefully we can keep talking to him about that, staying focused, winning the day, taking it one day at a time, and he'll continue to be that way.
But he's been a really popular kid on campus, obviously. He's going to be throughout his tenure here. Do you talk to him about that stuff? How
Yeah.
to deal with those distractions? and
Yeah,
whatnot?
yeah, I definitely, and you know, there's other guys like that too in that freshman class, like Brennan, you know, these guys, like, this is recruiting though, that's what happens in recruiting, you know, they're on all these websites and, you know, and that's great, I mean, that's good for the recruiting websites, but, you know, those kids haven't done anything yet in college, and once they get to the campus, in some ways, they're like rock stars, which is ridiculous when you think about it, because they haven't done anything on the football field in college to deserve that. Now, obviously, Adam and Christian have played in games, and Christian especially has done pretty well. And I understand what you're saying. But again, I'm not with him on campus. I do talk to him on, you know, every single day, 2 or 3 times a day about different things like class and football, and hey, look, you know, keep your head down and just keep working, and you know, don't worry about all the stuff on campus. Just, you know, the biggest thing is to make sure you get off to a great start academically and play as good as you can on Saturdays and prepare during the week. So I think he's taking that to heart.
Bill, what are some of the things maybe you've learned from last year to now as far as how it relates to trying to balance redshirting young guys when, you know, depth concerns come up and that kind of thing? Have you kind of learned anything from that, or kind of formulated any kind of plan if there is such a thing?
Yeah, we do. We talk about that all the time. We do have a plan for it. We have a deal where basically on Thursday mornings as a staff, we sit down and we say, we look at our depth, where we're at injury-wise and all those things, and we say, okay, is this guy a red light, a green light, or a yellow light? If he's a red light, that means that we're not, as it relates to freshmen, that we're not playing him no matter what happens.
Okay.
If he's a yellow light, that means that, hey, look, it depends on what happens. If, you know, 2 or 3 guys go down, then this guy's going to have to play. And if he's a green light, he's playing. And we definitely communicate with the player and try to communicate with the parents on what we're thinking as it relates to that player, especially the freshmen is what you're asking about mostly. And so it's a difficult deal. So that's the plan, but that plan changes every week because of, you know, your depth at that position. You know, you take, for instance, a kid like Brandon Bell, who we think is going to be a really good player for us. You know, because of the linebacker depth issue there a little bit. You know, he played last week. You know, he was on special teams, and at other positions, maybe the freshman, you know, like a kid like Deshaun Hamilton, who's injured right now. You know, he's redshirting, so that's good. You know, because we have some receivers there that can play, but at other positions we can't. And that'll be an evolving process as we go through these, you know, so-called sanction years. That's just the nature of the sanctions, really.
Bill, you said you learned a lot of lessons from O'Leary, you know, when you were a graduate assistant and assistant coach. What's the most important lesson you think you took away from him, and at least what's part of the philosophy that you've adopted from O'Leary?
Yeah, I think that probably I took 2 big lessons from him that I'll always have with me in coaching, that I've always kept with me. One was organization. He was a very organized guy. Like, there wasn't a wasted moment during the day. And that had a lot to do with work ethic. I mean, we worked extremely hard. All of us did when we worked for him. He demanded that of us. So, you know, I learned a lot about that. And then I just learned about how important the physical toughness, resiliency of your football team is. Like, that's a very important characteristic of a good football team. And when you don't have that, then you're going to struggle. I'm not saying you're going to lose all your games, but it's not going to be easy. But when you have that, when you have physical, resilient, tough football team, then you've got a chance to win games. So those were 2 things that I learned.